All right, welcome everyone. It's our NBA trade deadline special here on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook right now. Hunter Baumgart here. There's Nick Bruzewitz. There's Doug Russell. We are going to welcome in Armin Sarian here as well. And there we go. Oh, we're getting a little echo there from you, Armin, I think, on those headphones. These are fantastic headphones, but I think they might be echoing.
He looks good.
But he looks great.
He looks good, especially with the background of the Bucks
better?
jerseys.
Yes.
That he put in the set behind him. So,
do you guys like this? I made this little Buck set. See, I'm in the
like
closet because I'm trying not to wake up my daughter who's taking a nap. So I'm in the closet. But I kind of like this little
That
setup.
sounds about right there, Armin.
Yes.
Well, it didn't take me long to reach for my Bucks jerseys. They're always accessible for me. I don't keep them far from my body, always. So there they are. All right. The echo's better. I don't want to interrupt your great monologue.
I definitely think it's better. And so the big news, obviously, is that Giannis is staying in Milwaukee. It is 201. He was not traded. After all of the discussion over the last few months, I went back into Shams' Twitter because I'm like, okay, when was the first time this? And obviously, this has probably been discussed
2017.
Exactly. But I went back just this past year, 2025, May 12th.
That's hard to believe.
May 12th was when Giannis, the headline on Get Up with Greeny was Giannis open to exploring best fits outside of Milwaukee. That was May 12th. December 3rd, you had the just in, Giannis and his agent have started conversations with the Bucks and discussing whether his best fit is staying here or elsewhere. That was December 3rd. Then January 28th, he's ready for a new home at the NBA trade deadline or in the offseason. And rival teams were making offers, and the franchise was starting to listen. And then, of course, this morning at 11:01, the Milwaukee Bucks have indicated to teams that they are keeping Giannis through the trade deadline and will start making other trades. And they made one other one. We'll see if anything comes in at the buzzer. I know there are reports of them talking to the Grizzlies about John Morant. But
was that the yawn emoji?
Yes.
That they put out earlier?
That was the yawn. Yeah.
Yes.
That was good. I kind of like that.
Done.
Even if it, it's good content for the social media admin. Like that's what we always make the joke. The admin, right, Nick. The admin is cooking.
Right.
That's what the kids say. So
I think that's Nick Monroe over there with the Bucks, and he or at least somebody that's on his staff.
Or his staff.
They work pretty hard over there.
Yeah,
this is good for them.
That's exactly what fans are feeling.
So, but around the country, though, this is a really devastating day for the likes of Shams Charania. Pour one out for the likes of, the Skip Baylesses of the world and the Colin Cowherds of the world who have been begging and pleading for years for Giannis to leave Milwaukee, because who would want to be a superstar in pissant Milwaukee?
This is true.
They have been begging Giannis to leave for Golden State when Golden State was a super team. They're not a super team anymore, although Golden State was reportedly in on some of the discussions as well, trying to once again be a super team, which I can't fault anybody for wanting to hang on, and maybe they hung on for a year too long. I'll always want to hang on a year too long to a team that is a championship caliber team as opposed to the other end. And I think that's maybe what the Bucks have done and continue to do a little bit, is they're hanging on a little bit and just throwing everything up against the wall and seeing what sticks. And if you have a generational superstar like Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in Bucks franchise history, with all due respect to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's one of the most underrated players in NBA history, if those are your best players, you're going to be pretty damn good. Giannis won 2 MVPs, probably should have won at least one, maybe 2 more. Kareem won 3 as a Milwaukee Buck. They each have 1 NBA championship, famously 50 years apart. But these are the 2 best players in your franchise's history, and those are 2 generational superstars. And when they traded Kareem, it was because Kareem went to the Bucks and said, "I've got another year on my deal. I'm not coming back. Trade me. I'm giving you a year to figure out the best deal that you can possibly make. If you can trade me to either Los Angeles, where I went to college, or to New York, where I'm from, that would be great. That would be ideal." Yeah. And they accommodated that. And that's why I know a lot of people have sore feelings. Older Bucks fans have sore feelings about Kareem. I'll never have sore feelings about Kareem because of the way that he handled it. And I'd say the same thing about Giannis. I think that he's handled things as well as you could possibly handle it, despite all of the outside pressures that say, why are you still with this Milwaukee Bucks team? A team that, okay, when they were winning, at least you could make the argument that pissant Milwaukee deserved to have a superstar, but now that they're not winning, why would you even want to still be there? Well, Giannis is just built differently. And I'm not saying that he'll never want to leave. I'm not saying that he's going to re-sign when his free agency comes due in a year. A little bit more than a year from now. He's got one more year left on his contract.
Well, he's eligible to sign the extension in October, but you're right. He's got a little more than a year, but he would be eligible to sign the extension.
True. And I don't think that he will sign that extension if the Bucks are configured the way that they're still configured. But I think that's okay, though, as well. But just this bloodthirst to get him out of town has been nauseating to witness for most of the last decade.
It's like well, you guys know, like, this is kind of the terminology we use now, right? With like, it's good, mental health and things that you manifest things. You have visualize, and Nick, because you just graduated like high school or whatever, so this is like the definition of manifesting. They were trying to manifest it to happen, and they were trying to really vision board it. Now, like you said, Doug, it might happen one day. It might happen this summer. We know that's the reality of the situation, is they might be able to get an offer they like this summer that they have to take. But the reality is, Giannis is a Buck now, and that's good news for multiple reasons. The main of which thing is the Bucks are better and more interesting with Giannis on the roster. Yes. And he's a homegrown guy, and he's our guy, and he's one of the more, like you said, accomplished, important, and famous athletes to ever come to one of our teams, and he loved being here as much as anybody, and for all those reasons we like having him. So if the day has to come one day, so be it, but I think it's better in general that he's here, at least for now, while you have time to either A, convince him to sign the extension, B, try to find a way to build around him, or C, and I think this is probably the best case scenario, and tell me if I'm wrong, guys, what you think, but let's say the Bucks continue to lose this. I never like the word tanking because I never want to root for my team to lose. But let's say this team's Giannis is hurt and this team's just not good. You might acquire enough ping pong balls to get lucky in the lottery, pick up a big asset there, whether it's a player, a pick, what have you, and maybe build around that, right?
No, that'd be my argument. You want the Bucks to be as bad as possible the rest of the way this year. I think that's your most likely scenario at having Giannis be in Milwaukee and sign an extension is to get a young star to play alongside him. And what we've noticed and what we've known for a long time about Giannis is that he's different. And this year it continues to prove this is the loudest statement that's been made. Any other star player, this is an untenable situation. This is a no-win situation. The Bucks are by no means in a position to win moving forward. And if you're truly a superstar in a players' league like the NBA is, you want out. And Giannis clearly didn't express that he wanted out. He may be indifferent. He may not have stated directly to the franchise, I don't want to leave, but he has made no mention of, I want to leave. And I think that's really unique. James Harden's going to be on his sixth team. He's on his sixth team. And Harden's not necessarily the measuring stick of success and likability, but it's a league where you search for your best opportunity as often as you can. And Giannis, in my opinion, has chosen to stick with a not great opportunity due to loyalty, due to personal values, and I you can only respect it from a fan base perspective.
Yeah, but the flip side of that, though, at least with James Harden, is that I think he's probably already complaining where he's in Cleveland. I mean, in Cleveland, he's already. What he does. I mean, this guy complains almost at the moment that he gets into town with a new team.
Yeah, so it's a different attitude.
He's never won anything. He folds up like a cheap suit in the playoffs. Great individual talent, but he's never made anybody better. You can't say that about Giannis. He makes everyone else around him better. So I think that to me, that's the biggest difference between those two players. Both individually great, but one elevates and one doesn't.
Well, he's a made man. He's a made man. I mean, he's won a title and he did it, shouldering the main load there down the stretch. You always have that accomplishment no matter what else. Now, obviously, they've had the first round exit since then, and that's been a big issue. They haven't stayed healthy as a team, but you're a made man in that regard. The one thing I'll also say is, he made statements to the contrary, Nick, right? To Jim Ozarski, to Eric Name, and even to Sam Amick saying, look, no matter what people are saying, I want to be here. I don't want to leave, but I do want to win. So if there was one aspect of what he did that was kind of calculated here, it was he made it clear you put the Bucks in a position that if they were going to trade him, it was going to be because of them, right? I'm making it pretty clear. I'm happy to be here. I'm not asking for a trade. Yeah. So, and that's going to be speculated till the end of time. How much behind the scenes did he maybe say that, but he wouldn't say it out loud to not be a bad guy? Yeah, maybe that's part of it. So be it. But the reality is, if they traded him today, it would have been on the Bucks. It would have been Giannis made it as clear as he possibly could. Through those interviews he gave, that it wasn't at his request, as behest, or anything like that. And we'll see going forward. Obviously, that's contingent with having a competitive team, which the Bucks right now clearly don't. So how they reconcile that going forward now is the job of the Bucks ownership and front office.
Armin, you mentioned this a couple of days ago on the Huddle, by the way, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. on both 920 in Milwaukee and 1070 in Madison.
Get that
with
plug in there.
Drew and Billy, absolutely. And Armin, you mentioned this on the show a couple of days ago, that there's a more than zero amount of Bucks fans that will be maybe not happy with how this ended up. And we're like, you know what, just trade him. At this point, just trade him, just get rid of him, get what you can back and let's start over. I think there's a chunk. I don't think it's, looking at social media today, I think most are celebrating, but there is a part of this fan base that is like, all right, I don't want to keep going through this. Just at some point, in all likelihood, he's going to leave Milwaukee. So let's just get rid of him. I'm the sort like, no, let's just keep him as long as you can. If you trade him at some point, fine. But every day longer that he's on the Bucks is a day longer closer to his retirement that he's on my favorite team. And I love it.
That's exactly how I feel too. You can look at it that way, but as Barrow, you buying all that time because the most amount of years of his career that he put the Bucks is better. But you're right, and I think we've all seen that, right? And I think there's some out there now that will say for a couple of reasons. Two prongs of it. One prong of the fans, I would say, the best thing we can do is trade him for assets, as many as we can, and rebuild. Okay, I guess you can make an argument there. I wouldn't agree with it totally, but I would think it's a totally logical argument. And the second one is the fans that just quote unquote, we saw this with the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing over and over. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to quote hear about it anymore. Just trade him and be done with it. That just kind of get annoyed by the whole process, which is understandable because we're fed, the narrative. We're fed the news that we get mostly from our national sports media, which had a lot of Giannis moving talk in the last, and you pointed it out, 7, 8, 9 years. Even going back to the Malika Andrews thing after they lost in the playoffs in, 18 or 19? This was before COVID. Billy pointed that out on the Huddle, before the Bucks even won the championship. So it's not been a new thing. So a lot of fans get weary of it, get tired of it. And because that conversation seems to persist, a lot of times they naturally kind of take it out on the player and say, I've heard this more than once from Bucks fans. I'm tired of his antics. Well, I don't know what antics they are. They felt it was a passive-aggressive thing that was going on behind the scenes. And to the extent we'll never know, right? But you've been around it too, and Doug long enough to know there are things we'll never know about it. But the reality is there are some fans, I'm sure still, that are going to say, we're just putting off the inevitable and we're ready to move on with it. And that's, once upon a time, you would have never heard that, right? Especially at the peak of his powers after the Bucks championship. It was, Giannis never leave us. And that was true of Brett, and that was true of Aaron at one time. And that was true of every great player in this city, in this state. But there are going to be some like that for sure. I don't think it's a lot, but I don't think it's an insignificant number.
What I think everybody has to also understand is Giannis's best basketball is behind him. I mean, sorry, it just is, and that's not to say that Giannis has anything to apologize for. He most certainly doesn't. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. There's no questions. 13 years. 2 MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player. He's won just about every accolade that you can possibly win, including the trophy, which, again, trophies are forever. But whomever gets him next, and I don't think he's going to end his career with the Bucks. I just don't. I think that he'll leave as a free agent if he's not traded next year, and I suspect that he'll be traded either in the offseason or a year from now at the deadline. I don't think the Bucks are going to allow this to get to free agency. I truly, truly don't. That having been said, whoever gets him is getting someone who doesn't have a lot of tread left on the tires. He's not old. 31 isn't old. But in terms of how he plays, how much he plays, how physical he plays, I don't see him getting to the stage of his career that, say, for example, a LeBron James is at. Somebody who's playing
Right.
deep into their 30s and then even
Right,
into their
yeah.
40s. I just don't,
Because his
I
game's
just don't
different.
see
Yeah,
that.
his game's different. Right.
Well,
Totally, and the amount of time he's playing, overseas as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was my opinion that they should have traded Giannis before this season, and my opinion changed once he got hurt multiple times in season. You need to have him be in a position where they have some semblance of health to trade him. And right now, he's gone through 2 consecutive lower leg injuries. He's now gone through a series of lower leg injuries in his career, and it's depressing his value, and it's concerning from a future asset perspective. And the Bucks, when he was healthy, were okay this year, pretty good. On occasion, but they were nothing special, and that was my worry, is that they would just be middle of the pack. From a cross sport perspective, I know it well as a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, unless you're truly competing for a championship, you're not competing for a championship. And it feels like the Bucks are now that C tier team in the East, a team that's exciting, that has impactful players like Giannis. I thought Miles Turner was a mistake. That hasn't worked out. And I hope that the Bucks are put in a position in 2030 that we're not looking back and wondering if they fumbled or realizing that they fumbled this situation. And it's hard. It's hard. I'm a younger generation. I have lesser emotional attachment to players, I think, just historically, because so many things in my lifetime have been quick moving. LeBron has been on a handful of teams, or I guess he's transitioned from teams 3 different times. KD's been a bunch of teams. Harden, I made mention. And I mean, these guys are all playing on tons of teams. It's like fantasy football. It's like fantasy sports. And that's kind of my interest. And I look at Giannis, and he's not the same value anymore. If you had him on your fantasy team in a dynasty league, you'd be looking to shop him. And it's a whole different world, I know. I just think that the Bucks are now in a spot where, now you're just looking at Giannis sentimentally and not necessarily as a chip that's going to lead you to a championship.
But
I think that's legitimate. Go ahead, Doug.
You're also looking at him from a business perspective. And Armin, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, as someone who has the affinity for the Bradley Center that you do. I covered this team from, when did I first start covering this team? 1990 something.
Todd Day?
Yeah, I was there for Todd Day. I was there for Kevin Duckworth. I was there for, the Mike Dunleavy as the coach era, all of that. The Chris Ford era, may he rest in peace. The George Karl era, which they had some good moments in as well. But I also remember those lean years after 2001, after the air quotes big 3 left, when they were wandering in the wilderness through, the Larry Kristoviaks of the world and, the Scott Skiles of the world as their head coach. And when the entire upper deck of the Bradley Center was empty for, game after game after game. I mean, they used to actively market Kobe Bryant and the Lakers coming in because that's the only way they'd get a gate. They were so irrelevant. They were
they handed out beards when James Harden first came. They handed out beards just to get some butts in the seats.
Just to get some fannies through the turnstiles. And it was bad. And then Giannis came and started to fill the place up. And Armin, I want to get your perspective on this as well, because from a business standpoint, just to have fans in the seats at Fiserv Forum, and I know the crowd was a little underwhelming last night.
Yeah.
And, we can get to that if you want. But by and large, since Giannis started his ascension, and certainly in the Fiserv Forum era of Bucks basketball, it's been the hot ticket in town, whereas they literally couldn't give away tickets in the prior era, the prior generation of Bucks basketball.
They're a more interesting and relevant franchise with Giannis. That's just the reality. Yeah. And they're also, at any given night, have a better chance to win, obviously, when he's playing. I think the aspect of what you're saying is true, Nick, and Doug, about him being the backside of his best days behind him. But I think a lot of that is because of the health and his ability to stay healthy. I don't think it's when he's healthy, when he's been healthy, even though it's fewer and farther between, he's been as dominant as he was in the past. I mean, to start this year, the Bucks were 7-4, 8-4, and he was putting up crazy numbers. And unfortunately, the health didn't maintain. It was Taurean Prince, it was him, it was others, Kevin Porter. So this teams couldn't stay healthy. But if Giannis could find a way to reset, get healthy this year, figure that part out, maybe stay healthy. Now it's a big if, and maybe that's the part of it where eventually his body will break down. I still think on the court he's as effective as he has been in some of his best years. He was starting to really develop a great mid-range game last year. That didn't necessarily continue, but then again, he hasn't had a stretch of play where it's consistent to see if that could have been. I will say this: the Bucks have taken shots that haven't worked out. Dame, and looks like I have to give Nick some credit. You mentioned him. you took a lot of heat, Nick, when you weren't as excited about the Miles Turner thing as everybody else. I do remember that. So you might have been he clearly hasn't worked out the way the Bucks have hoped. So I got to give you some credit there on that one because you took a lot and you stuck with it. But the Bucks took shots and I don't think the injuries have helped. But then it comes down to the fact of if he is on that end of it and you do need to start over, would you rather? The way Billy and I got into the conversation and eventually came to the question is, would you rather have Giannis and lose,
right,
or take your chances of winning without him? And that's a difficult decision for both. And I think everyone would say, well, if you could tell me we wouldn't have Giannis, but we would build a championship team and win a championship, everyone would take that, of course.
Of course.
But the question is, when you start to take your boat out into the abyss of the ocean without Giannis at the helm, it's a brand new mystic. Yeah, and you're out into the mystic. Storm. As Van Morrison once said, you're out into the mystic at that point. So you don't know what's to come. It might turn out better. It might not. But it's one thing, to know you have Giannis. But the thing is the health. Can he stay healthy? Can he get healthy again? If he can stay that way, I have complete faith he could still be all NBA, top 2 all NBA, or first or second team if need be.
Yeah. Some breaking news though. Shams Charania reporting that John Morant will not be traded.
There you go. Okay. Another big name not to move.
There were reports that the Bucks were in on a potential John Morant deal. Apparently, like Giannis, John Morant not going anywhere. He'll remain with the Memphis Grizzlies. So, I mean,
right.
Your points are all well taken. The other thing is, and you kind of alluded to it, Armin, the Bucks have tried. They've taken swings since they won the championship 5 years ago. 5 years ago? 5 years ago. Golly, that's
21.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been that long.
26. I know. That's crazy. Yeah, 5 years ago. 5 seasons.
4.5 seasons. 4.5. Yeah. That stinks.
4.5. Yes. We'll go.
Man, it stinks when the farther it gets away.
But they've tried. I mean, they fired Mike Budenholzer, who won a championship as a coach. They tried Adrian Griffin because he vibed with Giannis. And when Giannis was drawing up plays in the huddle, despite the fact that they were 31-10 at the time, they won. Adrian Griffin. They wanted Doc Rivers, brought in Doc Rivers. That hasn't worked out. They went after Damian Lillard. That didn't work out. They brought in Miles Turner. That didn't work out. Everything that they've tried. They have tried. Mm-hmm. And I will always give the Bucks credit for taking those swings. They haven't connected, but you've got to step up to the plate. And John Horst has done that. And I would rather have an over-aggressive general manager than one who stands pat and just says, no, we're just going to try to run it back and not make any moves or anything like that. John Horst is a guy who's aggressive. Again, sometimes these things don't work out, but I would rather have somebody who recognizes that what you're trying to run it back isn't going to work. Recognize that the roster was getting older, so you had to get a little bit younger. Would I love to have Brook Lopez back in a Bucks uniform, or Chris Middleton back in a Bucks uniform? Yeah, absolutely. Or Drew Holiday back in a Bucks uniform? Yeah, but all of those guys, I'd love to have them back 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's sentimental at this point for those guys. You're not going to win a championship.
And they're all going to come back, and when they celebrate the 2021 Bucks, in 5 years from now, in 2031, they will all get thunderous applause.
The next time they have a first-round draft pick, or what?
Yeah, I mean, the next first-round draft pick that they control, I think, is in the 6th or 7th grade right now. So, they have mortgaged the future, but I'm okay with that. I would rather. I've always said it. I've been very consistent on this. If you could promise me a championship, I'll take the suck on the back end. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. We are there. Yeah. The window is closed. It is slammed shut. It's not coming back. You've got to retool at some point, and that's going to not include Giannis, which sucks, but that's the reality of it. But I love the fact that they swung for it.
Yeah, and another thing is they it does seem like a little bit of they sold their soul to their devil for the championship because they could not catch a break in terms of the health. I mean, in the playoffs, it was always, the injuries were a factor every time. Yeah, I can sit straighter here for you, Hunter, to get that graph. Oh, good graphic.
No, you're.
And it was the health
here in a second anyway.
Yeah.
I see.
Me too. But they couldn't. So they couldn't get lucky to stay healthy. Unfortunately,
I feel like I've already said my piece. So.
Thank you.
Well, but you did. I want to say this. You brought this up really quick about all those old players, and I do feel like when people talked about the passive aggressiveness or the kind of upset nature that Giannis has seemed to have this year. Tell me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think this is a guy that's so emotionally connected to the game, to his team, to what he valued. It was hard for him to process emotionally the change that was going on with the franchise, with his career, And just the fact that all of his old buddies that he grew up with in the game, and the Chris, Brooke, Drew, those guys are all basically gone. And it's hard for him to deal with that. But listen, you're right. Eventually, you have to move on from it one way or the other. And whether it's figuring out a brand new young team around Giannis, or it's, I think of Hakeem. He had 2 eras with the Rockets in the 80s, and then he started like his Dream Shake era in the 90s with a new cast
when did
around
he win
him.
The championships. He won the championships in the 90s.
Sure. So my point is, I don't think it's necessarily you can't move on with Giannis. If he can stay healthy, maybe you can build a young team around him. But if it's not him, whatever it is, but hey, he's here now, and you gotta kind of just cherish every moment of him being a Buck.
You do. That's Get out to Fiserv Forum and enjoy it when he's back healthy. Now the other question is going to be, do you shut him down? There was it seemed, I think it's now an erroneous report that they're going to shut him down. It seems that they're not going to shut him down now. Eric Name reporting that they're not. So I would assume he plays when he comes back, and they're going to try to make a push at this thing. Look, the play-in is probably the most realistic opportunity. Dave, what are your thoughts?
I'm out.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, good to see you. Bye, Doug.
Hey, guys.
We'll see you guys.
See you, Doug.
All right. Take care, guys.
I'm just happy Shams had to eat it on the
There you go.
Giannis trade talk, this entire time, because he's been pushing this narrative for so long, and then he has to tweet out there. It's like, oh, he's actually not going to get traded. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I mean, in terms of this year, I mean, I really wasn't expecting them to do a whole lot. I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm really not sure that this is the team to really trade your few remaining future assets for. I don't know who you're going to get, who is going to be that difference maker to really change this group. I mean, it's going to take such an overhaul of this roster to get them back to where they need to be. So I wasn't expecting a ton. I think it's great that Nigel Hayes is back in Wisconsin here.
Yeah, we didn't mention that.
He's in Milwaukee, and he's lasted longer than Sam Decker. Remember when Sam Decker was a Buck for 5 minutes, and then they flipped him around? And
he's lasted longer as a Buck. As a Buck, yeah, he has. Yeah.
He did flip around.
He's gonna still. I'd like to see if he's got to get a number and a jersey and an official roster, and then you could get the jersey, right? That's the whole thing. If you're a Badgers fan.
Well, they've already flipped Nick Richards, who they got as well. I mean, he's now with the Bulls, and they got.
He's with the Bulls.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So they got him, and then they got Nigel Hayes. They traded away Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey. So very, small trade is really.
Portis survives again. Is just sticking around. He's a.
Well, there's a situation probably where they felt like, is it worth, like Dave just said, is it worth getting rid of or trying to get any asset you can from? For those who don't know, too, he goes by Nigel Hayes Davis now, I believe. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, he
so
does.
That's what the jersey will say if you buy it.
Get that.
Yeah, Hayes Davis. Yeah, I'm excited for that. But yeah, I mean, you don't have a ton of assets really to trade, and they have exhausted the few that they have had over the years to try and get guys. The Drew Holidays of the world, the Jay Crowders. They traded 5 second-round picks for
5
that.
seconds. Yeah.
I mean, they've traded so many assets to try and get guys. Obviously, the Damian Lillard trade, and then Kuzma trading some assets there. So they don't have much left. So whatever you do have, you got to be smart with it. And I don't think there's really anyone out there who's going to be so much of an impact to take this team to a legit NBA title contender this year. So, I think it makes a ton of sense. Now, I also saw, obviously, the Mavericks and the Luka Doncic trade. Anthony Davis gets flipped over to Washington and Chris Middleton goes to Dallas. But I saw reports that he could get bought out and he could be on the buyout market.
Bring him back.
Armin, you were talking about running it back. You can get Chris back. That actually could be possible.
You can get the boys back together again. Right here.
That'll make Giannis happy, I'm sure.
There's no reason. If it's just for good vibes for the rest of the year, there's no reason not to. I mean, just bring him back, put him in 22 again, let the crowd enjoy it. Let Giannis enjoy it. I mean, those are the kind of vibes you want.
Something because the basketball's not helping us be enjoying.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, if that's what it is going to be, that's what it's going to be. And there's nothing wrong with doing it just to have a little fun and keeping him back. So the battle cries back. It was at Bucks and 6. I like seeing that.
Yes,
so
also,
hey, why not bring him back?
Yeah. Taylor on Facebook with an interesting point here. And Nick, you might be on the opposite side of this, but Taylor saying there is still time for Miles to work out.
He's under contract.
Now,
of course there is.
Well, it's not over, right?
Yeah. He ain't going
There's
anywhere.
only been, what, 3/4 of a season so far, what have you, that he has been on the Bucks. Now, there's a ways to go for it to work out. It depends on how you define that. But he could still, Taylor said it can include him. It can include Miles Turner. And I think you'd want it to in a perfect world, because he is one of, obviously, your higher paid players and a guy who's expected to contribute more than he is. So what do you do around him? And so that is, I think there is still time, and we have to wait and see. But obviously, this offseason, what they do with Giannis and how the rest of this season goes plays into that.
Miles Turner, your third best.
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, like if Miles Turner is going to be effective and people are going to look at him positively, he can't be your first or second option. He needs to be your
third. That's fair.
And he is not a good enough rebounder at a 7-foot size to be an impactful, consistent threat in that regard. He's good as a defensive specialist, I guess, at the rim. He's good at defending the rim, but he doesn't put up enough points. I mean, I think he's like Bobby Portis. He's literally like Bobby Portis, and people don't like Bobby. So I don't know why we want to pay another guy to be Bobby 2.0.
I think there was an idea he'd be better on defense. I think he's a better rim protector, but you're right. He doesn't rebound to the level he just can't be the first option. You can't depend on your whole thing working around Miles. He shot an okay percentage, right? I mean,
in a premier role, he can be a third option, and that's why you look at the roster. And the only way you could ever get two players better than him is to trade Giannis.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good. Taylor said he actually meant it can include Giannis. So he meant saying that, this next run of Bucks basketball can include Giannis. And honestly, I'd love it. Yeah, that would be awesome. I think the Bucks are
totally true.
Position.
Yes. Hey. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, progress is nonlinear. I mean, this team could get better with an offseason, staying healthy again. And I don't know what happened to Gary Trent, but he was a great at the end of the year last year. But there are some times when things work out, they don't work, but things could get better. Guys could play better. It could turn around. You do kind of have a revelation with Ryan Rollins. I still think Kevin Porter's a big time talent. So
I know it's kind of apples and oranges here. And I know this will surprise you, but I'm going to make a baseball reference here. But like Ryan Braun, when he initially came up, you had that contention window, 2008, 2011, that whole core, that group. It's like, okay, you have some success there with Ryan Braun. And then it's like, okay, this is all going to fall apart. We're losing these guys. But Ryan Braun's still there through that whole time. You go through a rebuild, you get some younger roster pieces around them. You get some fresh guys, some actual younger good players. And by the time you get back around to 2018, he's still there as kind of the veteran leader of the group. But you have another core that's ready to compete. So I'm sure there can be something similar with the Bucks, where it's just, okay, he's going to be here through this whole time, but he's got to understand, and everyone's got to understand, like, look, it may be a couple years of rebuilding, getting draft picks, getting young players and having them develop into being actual stars before they can actually be good again. Because with how old the roster is, with the pieces that they have, the draft picks that they have, they're going to have to do a massive rebuild and retool. And they can do it around Giannis, but it's going to take Giannis wanting to stay throughout that whole time, rather than, say, for example, Kareem back in the day, where he's like, hey, a rebuild's coming. I don't want to be part of a rebuild. Send me out. So
to Nick's earlier point,
what Kareem said at the time, it's going to take Giannis not doing the same thing.
And to Nick's earlier point, before he came on, a couple things have to go your way here. And whether that's getting the right ping pong balls coming up in the lottery to get a high enough pick, you got to catch a couple breaks in that regard. Guys need to, stay healthy.
Will the NBA allow the right ping pong balls to come up for Milwaukee? I've got a feeling they will. That lottery has got to be rigged. The way Dallas ended up winning it this past year, come on.
It happened before. It happened before for us. So
if Giannis won't leave, if it is made clear that Giannis is not going to leave, they will have to make the balls land right. They want this premier player put in a position where he is in the biggest game. So if
maybe
collusion and in league involvement and making things happen, Cooper Flag potentially, you'd see it similarly maybe in Milwaukee. But Dave, you talk
Too much
about
tinfoil hats. You guys with your tinfoil hats, man.
and
You know, you think
I
everything's a
don't
conspiracy.
I do not believe it. I do not believe in the conspiracy, but some people do. I'll say this. So, Dave, you made mention of rebuilding and retooling around Giannis. I'm not convinced that this front office can accomplish that task. Their hit rate on all the moves they're making are terrible. Terrible. And I'm sorry, John Horsey did a great job.
It's fair.
But maybe your time is gone. Look at the coaching choices. Look at Doc's not the right guy. So you're talking about a new coach, maybe a whole new front office, and maybe Giannis will be convinced to stick around for the next group. I just think Doug said you need a guy like Giannis to fill the arena. Well, the next chance.
Who's gonna? And that's what it is.
Crowder
Nick.
that was telling us that Doc was the beginning of the end. He started
He did say that. Yeah. Well, that's
Crowder
easy. It's easy to say now, though. That's a little revision. But yeah, he did.
Jay's
Listen, I'll say this. I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to get going. Who's going to make the coaching hire too? I mean, because the word was that Horst wanted Kenny Atkinson, but ownership wanted to bring Doc in. So I don't know. I mean, if John Horst gets to make the call, I kind of trust him, but I don't know if he is going to. All right, guys.
Thing, Armin, before you go, two quick things. On social media, Giannis just posting on all of his social media, legends don't chase, they attract. And so, yeah, you can go
That's
into
good.
that.
And that means we're going to get some players. No?
And then maybe in the offseason.
Giannis is recruiting.
Or maybe Chris Milton. But
I read anything I read is going to be positive right now. Go ahead, Hunter. Yeah.
Also, the Bucks tweeted about 15 minutes ago. Just in conversation. Is Armin in his closet? Yes. Yes. But Bucks saying, quote, just in conversations have started about, and they tag Shams. This is the Bucks account. Just in, conversations have started about Shams Charania's future and discussing whether the ESPN senior NBA insider's best fit is staying on Giannis's all-star celebrity team or somewhere else.
Well, that's great trolling. That's great, healthy trolling. I love that the Bucks did it. That's part of it. And Shams is gonna have to wear it here for a couple weeks. It's not been a good run here for Shams. He can insist probably till forever though that he knew more than everybody else. But who knows? He's gonna have to wear it. I know. Yeah, he used to just make his bomb and move on. Yeah. All right, guys, keep it up.
All
Good.
right,
I'll let you guys finish it out here. Thanks, boys.
Sounds good.
Good
We'll wrap
seeing
up here.
Go Bucks.
Armin.
Appreciate you, Armin. And we will go back to this wonderful little Zoom
there we go.
Screen here. Any final thoughts as we go? I mean, we talked a lot about Giannis on the daily shows for a long time, and this is kind of the conclusion as it stands now. But if there's ever going to be a guy that's going to fight this national narrative and fight what star players usually do, I feel like it could be Giannis. So I don't know. Buckle up. I have a feeling this could, October could come and we could see an extension. Now, if you're the Bucks, you're also like, well, is it smart to sign him to that much money? The age, the wear and tear, the injuries. So this is also a two-way street that we got to remember here.
Yeah. I think it would be, because if you don't sign him to that extension, you are going to have, as Doug says, pick your own section night at Fiserv Forum. So they're going to want to keep him around as long as possible. They know that. John Horst knows that. Their jobs are all only remaining in place really as long as Giannis is still here. So they'd certainly be open to signing him to an extension. It remains to be seen if maybe he'd be willing to take, less than the Supermax. Unlikely, in order to build a better team around him for salary cap purposes. But yeah, it's going to be a big offseason ahead for John Horst to try and figure out a way to make this group competitive. Whatever changes he's got to make to the rest of the roster, trades, draft picks, whatever, but they have got to hit on some guys, especially the draft picks. They have not drafted well in recent years. So if you're going to be successful in rebuilding and getting a young roster, you have to draft well. And the last time the Bucks really drafted well was Giannis. They lucked out. They drafted a project and he turned out to be a stud. Giannis could have been like Gian Leon. He could have been Thon Maker. Where it's like, oh yeah, they got superstar potential, but massive project. Who knows? Giannis turned out to be a superstar, but they haven't been able to find any sort of success in the draft since. And that's what really hamstrung them. So you got to keep Giannis for as long as possible. As long as he wants to stay here, you will keep him here and just do everything you can to make him happy and try and build a competitive roster while your window is still there.
You talk about pick your section night. Pick your section night's inevitable. Giannis will leave at some point. You have to be smart. You have to look at this without the
But hold it off
emotion
as long as possible. Hold it off as long as possible.
Operating in mediocrity will lend towards people not coming anyway. Giannis banged up and not playing, people don't show up anyway. If he's injury prone, like we've seen he might potentially now be, you move off of that, you get resources in return. My point earlier was I argued you trade him before this season. Then when he got hurt a bunch and he's currently hurt, I said you can't trade him now because you're not going to get – certainly you'll never get a one-for-one deal. You're going to get as much value as possible. The league has now learned from their mistakes. Rudy Gobert is the most evident example, giving up 5 first-rounders to get a guy like him, didn't move the needle. So now you look at Giannis and you say, what do you really want? What do you want? I mean, if you're a Bucks fan and what you want is to see Giannis as much as possible, you have to be ecstatic. If you want your team to be competitive, if you want this team to have a core again, I don't think it's possible. And it wouldn't make sense for me if I'm Giannis to try and sit through a multi-year rebuild. So I'm happy that Giannis is around. I'm happy that the Bucks fans are happy. I do think that at this point you have to maybe try and embrace the rest of this season for whatever it is. We'll have a lot more answers in the offseason on what Giannis's future is. But today it's a celebration of making fun of those that on the national media level have made so many bold claims about things that are infinite and are finite, that are going to happen, and they didn't happen. And celebrating guys like Jim Ozarski, who really know what the hell is happening, who clearly have put out information that is legitimate. I love Giannis. I think he's a hell of a player. I mean, I'm wearing his jersey as we sit here. I just don't think that he is in a position to succeed and compete. I know he said, I'm never leaving, but I want to win. Well, you're not going to win in your current iteration.
Yeah, that's obviously what they're going to have to decide over this offseason. So we'll see what the rest of the year brings, how long he's out, and then when he decides to play, what the record of the team is and everything like that. If these additions, if we see, some Nigel Hayes action here for the Milwaukee Bucks in the upcoming games tomorrow night, they are back in action. Appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this NBA trade deadline special on this afternoon. We'll try to do more of these where we just go live at different points of the day. So thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon.
See you, boys.
Yeah.
See ya.